describing the circumstances behind the death of accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein died of apparent suicide on Saturday at a federal lockup. We have new information now about his final hours. Also, late word the FBI is searching his Caribbean estate. Stephanie Goss joins us now. You went to that estate at one point. What do we know about this?
Well, we know that the FBI showed up this morning on boats at around 10:30 in the morning, a team searching his island, even though accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein is dead and the federal trial against him will never happen. It's still an unmistakable message from the Department of Justice. This isn't over. Today, unexpected guests showed up on Jeffrey Epstein's private Caribbean island. A team of FBI agents raided the luxury compound, while the Attorney General vowed not to let up on the investigation.
Let me assure you that this case will continue on against anyone who was complicit with Epstein.
Barr also fiercely criticized the federal jail where Epstein was being held.
We are now learning of serious irregularities at this facility that are deeply concerning.
The 66-year-old was discovered close to death early Saturday morning. According to an administration official familiar with the facts, Epstein had not been checked on for a number of hours, a violation of protocol, which requires checks roughly every half hour. Today, the prison union telling NBC News the jail is understaffed. Officers are overworked. On July 23rd, Epstein was put on suicide watch after being found injured with marks around his neck, triggering 24/7 monitoring, according to multiple law enforcement sources. But on or about July 29th, the suicide watch was dropped. A person familiar with the case tells NBC News on August 9th, the day before his death, Epstein's cellmate was released and not replaced, another apparent violation of protocol. That same day, Epstein's attorneys visited the facility, arguing that their client was mentally stable and should be moved to a less restrictive unit. Epstein wasn't moved. He hanged himself the next morning, according to multiple law enforcement sources, making the decision to drop the suicide watch one of many questions in the investigation.
It's quite hard to keep someone alive if they're really intent on killing themselves, and that's why whatever that watch status is becomes very important.
Epstein may have slipped past the experts, but investigators are still determined the story of his alleged crimes gets told. Stephanie Goss, NBC News, New York.
I'm Miguel Almaguer. The criminal case against Jeffrey Epstein never named another defendant, but hours before his death, new court documents revealed a stunning allegation that the financier and a former member of his inner circle, British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, ordered a teenage girl to have sex with powerful men.
It started with one, and then it trickled into two, and then so on and so forth. And
Virginia Roberts Giuffre told the Miami Herald last year Maxwell recruited and groomed her as a sex slave for the rich and famous, including Epstein.
That is what we, the people, want.
Seen here at the UN, Maxwell, who denied wrongdoing and was never charged with a crime, settled out of courts with Roberts Giuffre. But today the Attorney General said any possible accomplice is under investigation.
Any co-conspirators should not rest easy. The victims deserve justice, and they will get it.
And Epstein's accusers are filing a barrage of civil lawsuits. With vast estates in Florida, New Mexico, New York, and in the Virgin Islands, Epstein was said to be worth at least $559 million. Michelle Licata says she is a victim.
Money will never make the pain go away, and it will just live on with me forever.
Tonight, Jeffrey Epstein may be dead, but his accusers still want their day in court. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
In the wake of Epstein's death, it didn't take long for people to spread wild conspiracy theories on social media. Among them, President Trump, who has a long history of fueling unfounded conspiracy claims. We get more from NBC's Andrea Mitchell.
Within hours of Jeffrey Epstein's apparent suicide, President Trump was retweeting a conspiracy theory linking Bill Clinton to his death. It was immediately picked up by Russian state media, going viral. A Clinton spokesperson calling the tweet ridiculous and of course not true, but a top Trump advisor defending it.
I think the president just wants everything to be investigated.
For the president, seizing on a conspiracy theory is part of a pattern. He launched his political career with the false birther claim against President Obama.
He may not have been born in this country.
In 2016, there was the bizarre claim that Republican rival Ted Cruz's father had been involved in the Kennedy assassination.
There's a picture of him and crazy Lee Harvey Oswald having breakfast.
And after the election, the false charge that millions in California had voted illegally for Hillary Clinton.
The same person votes many times. You probably heard about that.
Other examples, that Justice Scalia may have been murdered, that vaccines cause autism, or thousands of Muslims celebrated in Jersey City on 9/11. But tying Bill Clinton to Epstein's death reached a new level.
Certainly, to accuse, even by implication, a predecessor of a murder conspiracy puts us in a whole different realm of reality.
Clinton and Trump had both known Epstein, and Trump critics countered by blaming Mr. Trump online for Epstein's death. Marco Rubio chided both sides for spreading conspiracies, but no one did it with as big a megaphone as the president. Lester?
Andrea Mitchell, thank you, Andrea. There's breaking news tonight of the investigation of that mass shooting attack in Dayton, Ohio. A friend of the gunman is now facing federal charges, and our justice correspondent Pete Williams is in Washington with details. Pete, what can you tell us?
Well, Lester, federal prosecutors say tonight that this friend did not know that the gunman was planning a mass shooting. The friend, 24-year-old Ethan Colley of suburban Dayton, is charged with lying about drug use when he bought a handgun of his own in May. But investigators say he told them he bought a part of the assault-style rifle, the 100-round magazine, and the body armor that the gunman used in the August 4th shooting attack that killed 9 people. And this new detail, Colley told the FBI that he and the attacker used marijuana and LSD 4 or 5 times a week in 2014 and 2015. They say Colley told the agents that he kept all this in his apartment so that the gunman's parents wouldn't know before it was retrieved 6 or 8 weeks ago, Lester.
All right, Pete, thanks. There's growing outrage tonight in New Jersey's largest city. Lead found in the drinking water has thousands of Newark residents lining up for bottled water and worried about the long-term effects on their children. NBC's Ron Allen is there.
Worried and angry about lead contamination, residents of Newark, New Jersey are demanding bottled water and answers.
If you know that the water's going to be messed up for all of this time, why wasn't we told?
The city giving water to some residents today after the Environmental Protection Agency warned Friday night it could not assure their health is fully protected. New tests revealing water filters issued by the city last year amid elevated lead levels may not be reliably effective.
I'm upset, I'm angry.
Shakima Thomas says her son Bryce, age 5, tested positive for lead.
I'm concerned that his brain might not be able to think past a certain point.
While she admits she can't prove a connection, experts say no level of lead in water is safe. The issue exploding in 2016 when lead was discovered in the water in 30 school buildings.
The water in Newark is safe and drinkable.
Residents were skeptical then too, some now drawing comparisons to the crisis in Flint, Michigan. Late today, the city said testing will continue, and that out of an abundance of caution, the city is notifying residents that some filters may not be working as expected. The mayor has urged residents to let their water run for 5 minutes before using it. Yvette Jordan says her home tested 3 times the federal limit for lead. She leads a group of residents suing the city.
As an educator, as a parent, as a wife, as a resident of Newark, I'm extremely upset.
Tonight, residents of an American city worried about what's in the water.
Tonight, city officials insist the tests show the lead problem is not that widespread, but it's still unclear how much longer some residents of this largely African-American city will need bottled water. Lester?
Ron Allen in Newark, New Jersey, thank you. There's breaking news this evening on immigration. The Trump administration, which has long railed against illegal immigration, is now imposing new rules on immigrants here legally. NBC's Kristen Welker is at the president's resort in New Jersey where he is vacationing. Kristen, there's also some backlash to this move tonight. Tell us about it.
Lester, that's right, and that backlash is coming after the acting director of the Citizenship and Immigration Service announced that controversial new immigration rule that legal immigrants who rely on public benefits like Medicaid, food stamps, or housing assistance could have a tougher time obtaining a green card or U.S. citizenship. The Trump administration sees it as a way to focus on bringing in more highly skilled and wealthy immigrants to the U.S. The citizenship chief, Ken Cuccinelli, said is about ensuring the immigrants who are here are able to support themselves and to become successful in America. But opponents to the new rule say it's punishing the poor and stoking fear in immigrant communities.
All right, Kristen Welcher traveling with the president. Thanks. Now to the growing mystery tonight in Russia after a deadly accident that U.S. officials reportedly now suspect involved a nuclear-powered weapon, and President Trump weighing in this evening about it. Bill Neely has late details.
Buried today, five nuclear scientists, described as the elite of Russia's main nuclear test site, killed with two others when a small nuclear reactor exploded. They were testing an engine, thought to be for this new cruise missile, a weapon President Putin boasted about last year as capable of outsmarting American defenses. Russian officials say radiation levels spiked to 20 times normal levels. People in nearby cities stocked up on iodine to reduce the effects of radiation. President Trump tweeting tonight, the US is learning much from the failed missile explosion, which has people worried about the air there and far beyond. Initially, though, Moscow had denied a leak, as it did covering up the Chernobyl blast 35 years ago, the world's worst nuclear accident. This blast last week isn't on the same scale, but Moscow's secrecy can't hide an embarrassing setback to a weapon Russia sees as critical in its new arms race with the US. One American nuclear scientist told me tonight this new cruise missile might never work. US intelligence officials now analyzing if that's likely and if the radiation leak is over. Lester?
All right, Bill, thank you. Next tonight, the chaos that has crippled a major international travel hub. Hundreds of pro-democracy protesters flooding Hong Kong's airport, forcing over 150 flights to be canceled. The crowds were angry after police earlier shot tear gas and rubber bullets, injuring protesters at another location. Chinese officials have blasted the protests as, quote, the first signs of terrorism. A new development to tell you about tonight, a story we have been following. The family of a teen who died while trapped in a minivan after calling 911 twice is now suing, alleging his desperate calls for help were mishandled. We get more from NBC's Joe Fryer.
16 months after Kyle Plush died when he became trapped in his minivan, his family is filing a wrongful death lawsuit against the city of Cincinnati.
It's still hard to believe that it happened. It's still hard to believe that this is our lives.
When 16-year-old Kyle was pinned down by the van's third row seat, he used voice commands to twice call 911 on the cell phone in his pocket.
The Seven Hills what parking lot?
The family's lawsuit alleges the initial dispatcher failed to share details of the van's location and misclassified the call as unknown trouble, which meant police were sent.
That's a very sad situation, but to get back to my viewers pertaining to what's really extremely sad is the fact that
of the van's location
we live in a chaotic world. If it's not chaotic over in China, if it's not chaotic over in Russia, it's chaotic right here in America. If it's not over one thing, it's over another. And to be quite honest with you, I've never seen
news. In the wake of Epstein's death, it didn't take long for people to spread.
I've never seen times like we're living in right now.
Wild conspiracy theories on social media, among them President Trump, who has a long history of fueling unfounded conspiracy claims. We get more from NBC's Andrea Mitchell.
Within hours of Jeffrey Epstein's apparent suicide, President Trump was retweeting a conspiracy theory linking
I've just never seen nothing like all this. It just proves that we're definitely in the last days. Total chaos. We need to pray, and pray quick and hard. Good luck to all of us.